In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this simple corset pattern. So to start my pattern, I'll start with drafting out the upper part, which is the shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, waist, and then 5 inches to get the blouse length. After marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. From this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So after marking the 1 inch, I'll go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. So I'm just using this as a guide to cut out my pattern. I'll connect from the shoulder all the way to the neckline. Next, I'm going to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. And I'll rule out a straight line at this point. I'll go back and mark my shoulder divided by 2 here. Place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line connecting up. After connecting, I'm going to divide what I have here into 2. Come out by ½ inch and go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'm going to connect from this midpoint to the upper part and from the midpoint to the armhole of my pattern. After I'm done marking this, the next step is to mark the dart of this dress. I'll start by marking the nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches. Divided by 2, I have 3.5 inches, which I'll mark all the way from the bust, under bust, waist, and blouse length. I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line going all the way up and connect from the blouse length to the waistline. After I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to divide what I have from the neckline to the shoulder of this pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to fold it into 2. I'll mark the midpoint, place my ruler, connect from the bust to the mark I have at the shoulder. Now I'm going to mark my dart intake. I'll be using 1 inch on both sides. Let's say you're a plus size, you'll be using 1.5 inches on both sides. So I prefer using a straight dart, it is easier to join. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line and also draw a straight line on the other side of my pattern. After I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to place my ruler at the under bust and I'll connect it all the way to the bust of my pattern this way. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to connect from the under bust all the way to the bust of my pattern. Now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to decide where I want my cup to start. So I'll be using 1.5 inches. You can go ahead to measure from the shoulder to know where you want it to stop, or use 1.5 to 2.5 inches above your chest line. So I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. The next step is to insert my measurement. At the bust, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now for the dart intake, I'll be taking the dart at the chest line. This is an inbuilt corset and you don't need much allowance by this side. So I'll be using this dart here to replace by this side. And I'm going to just add ½ inch for sewing allowance. The under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and add ½ inch. Now for the waistline, my waist is 28 inches. I want to snatch out 2 inches from it. If I take out the 2 inches, I'll have 26. So I'll divide 26 by 4, which will give me 6.5. I'll mark, measure the dart intake here, replace it, and then add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. This is if you want to snatch your waistline. If you don't want to snatch your waist, please go ahead to leave your pattern that way. Here, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake I have here, and I will replace. Then go ahead to add ½ inch for joining allowance or sewing allowance to the back. After I'm done marking, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, connect from the bust to the under bust, from the under bust to the waist, and from the waist to the blouse length. So this corset pattern is an inbuilt corset pattern. Now I'll go ahead to outline my pattern. Next step is to mark your bust dart. So to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. Shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. Now take out 15.5 from 17, you will have 1.5. So this is how I got my bust dart for this part of my pattern. From the lower part of my pattern, I went up by 1.5 inches and I connected. But after connecting, I went ahead to adjust it to around 2 inches. So this is to make your pattern comfortable enough for you to when you put on your skirt. So I'll blend in my darts, and just like I said, I went up by 2 inches again, and I'll connect this all the way down. Now you can decide the hemline you want to use. I'm just using this basic hemline for this. Now you're going to, just like I said, you're going to make this corset, and after making it, you're going to make your skirt, which you'll be wearing on top. From the chest line, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch, because if you look at this pattern, the neckline is not so deep. So you can even add like 1/2 inch above your chest line if you want to. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect from the under bust towards the bust area of my pattern. So I'm not okay with what I have, and I'll go ahead to readjust and go ahead also to use my marker to outline my pattern and connect it to the neckline. Now to connect to the other side, I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus half. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I'll add half. Now I'll mark and go ahead to place, make sure I have that, which is 3.5 inches plus 1/2 inch will give me 4. If you're on the busty side, mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 and add 1. This is to accommodate your bust at the side. Now to mark my cup on the neckline area, I went ahead to blend it up so that my 2 cups will be matching. Now I connected to the chest line of the pattern, and after this I'll just go ahead to outline my cup area. So after this I'll just go ahead to cut out my pattern. So at this point, if you have any question, please kindly go ahead to ask. So now for the upper strap of this dress, you're going to add it after you're done making your dress. So you're going to add one coming from this side and one towards this side. So it will be easier for you to add this when you're done making the dress and probably the client is around. So you're going to pin this and tack it down. So this side, this particular one will be going over the neckline like an alter neckline dress, while the other one, this one will be going towards the back sleeve of the dress. So after this, I'll just go ahead and I will cut out my cup. So if you have any parts that you don't really understand, please go ahead to ask your question. So after cutting this, we'll go ahead to draft out the back pattern. Please also go ahead to blend your darts while cutting this. Now to cut out the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out the basic measurement. The shoulder divided by 2. I found the chest line, so I did not mark an armhole curve because the back pattern is going to be backless. So from there I marked my shoulder to bust and shoulder to waist. So the shoulder to waist at the back is shorter than that of the front. I have 15.5 inch. So after that, I added 5 inches extra for the blouse length. So the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my dart. So to mark my dart, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2, I'm going to mark this at the bust, waist and blouse length. After I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to connect from the bust, waist and blouse length also. So after marking this, I'll be marking my dart intake. And for the dart intake, you mark 1/2 inch on both sides for your dart. Come down by 1 inch from the bust. Now, I'll connect from this 1/2 inch all the way to the upper part. Connect from this side all the way to the upper part also. Now, from the waistline, I'm going to connect from the waist all the way to the lower part and then connect at the other side of my pattern. Now, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. It's a sewing allowance of 1/2 inch. Here, I'll mark the waist circumference of what I used at the front part, which is that 6.5. Measured the dart and I added 1/2 inch back. Here, I'll mark the hip circumference divided by 4 and add 1/2 inch for my sewing. After I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to place my ruler to connect all the way from the chest line to the bust and from the waist to the blouse length. So after marking this, I'll still come up by 2 inches here, which I'll connect all the way to the lower part of this dress. Now I'm just going to leave this straight because this is an inbuilt corset, and most times the shorter your back, the more comfortable it makes your dress when you're putting it on. So I came down by 1/2 inch from the chest line, and I'm going to connect this all the way to the chest line towards the armhole. Now for the lacing, you can decide whatever you want to use. I'm using 2 inches to mark this, and I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to connect this all the way down to the lower part of my pattern. After I'm done marking this, I'm just going to make a dot to indicate that I have a lacing there. Now I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. So just like I said, the strap on the dress, so your straps that you attach, you now take it all the way to the back of the dress, which will be forming a sleeve at the back of this dress. Now you're going to make a skirt which you're going to wear and tack to the waistline of this skirt, and now go ahead to make whatever design you want to make for this dress. So I'll just go ahead to cut out this dart, and after cutting that out, we are done with this drafting.